The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. Cold, relentless drops pelted the cobblestone streets, blurring the glow of city lights reflected in puddles. The cafe on the corner of 8th and Willow stood like a small pocket of warmth against the night, a quiet haven where the aroma of roasted coffee beans mixed with the faint hum of soft jazz. Inside, people chatted, laughed, and sipped their drinks, completely unaware that at one corner table, by the fogged-up window, sat a young woman whose life had quietly fallen apart. If you believe that one small act of kindness can change a life, take a moment right now. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Because this story will remind you why compassion still matters. Her name was Lila, and she had been coming to the cafe every evening for a week, not to buy coffee, but to find warmth. Her coat, once gray, had lost its shape, and the fabric was frayed at the sleeves. Her pale pink dress was wrinkled, her small handbag clutched like a secret she didn't want to share. Each night, she ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, usually a cup of tea she barely drank, and sat for hours, pretending to read from an old notebook. What no one knew was that when the cafe closed, she had nowhere else to go. Just a week ago, Lila had been someone else. She'd had a job as a receptionist, a shared apartment with a friend, and dreams that felt within reach. But then, her friends suddenly moved away, the apartment lease ended, and her employer, struggling with budget cuts, let her go. Within days, everything she depended on was gone. When her savings ran dry, she started sleeping in the park near the river, hiding her few belongings beneath a bench, her body trembling through the cold nights. The cafe became her sanctuary, a place where she could feel human again, where the soft chatter and warm light made her forget, even for an hour, that she had nowhere to belong. The waiter, Ethan, had noticed her on the very first night. There was something different about her, not in her appearance, but in her silence. She never caused trouble, never asked for anything extra, and always thanked him softly when he refilled her water. But there was a sadness in her eyes that lingered, even when she tried to smile. Every evening, Ethan watched her from behind the counter. He saw the way she hesitated before counting coins to pay for her tea, how she sometimes stared blankly at her reflection in the window, lost in thought. She was quiet, almost invisible, but something about her presence made the cafe feel different, like a secret was sitting in that corner. On the 7th night, the rain outside grew heavier, wind howling through the streets. The cafe emptied earlier than usual. By closing time, only Lila remained, sitting by her usual window seat, staring at the raindrops racing down the glass. Ethan wiped the last table, glanced at the clock, and sighed. He didn't want to disturb her, but he knew she couldn't stay forever. When he approached her table, she startled, quickly standing up. "I'm sorry," she whispered, fumbling with her worn-out handbag. "I was just about to leave." Ethan paused. "It's okay," he said gently. "You don't have to rush. It's still raining pretty bad out there." She hesitated, her eyes flickering toward the window. The truth was, she had nowhere to go, but pride held her tongue. She nodded, pretending to gather her things, but her fingers trembled. Ethan could see she was cold. Without another word, he took off his apron and sat down across from her. "Hey," he said softly, trying to smile. "Can I get you a cup of coffee?" "On the house." Her eyes widened. "Oh no, please," he interrupted kindly. "You've been here all week. I figured you might let me return the favor. You make this place feel less empty." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, finally, she nodded, and Ethan went to the counter. He poured 2 steaming cups, brought them over, and sat back down. The air between them was filled with quiet understanding, the kind that doesn't need words. As they sipped, Lila's guard began to drop. The warmth of the coffee spread through her chest like something she hadn't felt in days, comfort. She looked around the cafe, the dim light, the soft hum of the old record player, the faint clink of cups being washed in the back. For a brief moment, she felt like she belonged again. Ethan broke the silence with a question that came from instinct rather than curiosity. "You okay?" Lila lowered her gaze. I'm fine," she murmured, then stopped herself. Tears welled up in her eyes, betraying the lie. "Actually, no," she whispered. "I'm not fine." Her voice cracked and she looked away. The confession spilled out, slowly, painfully, how she'd lost her job, her home, how she'd been pretending to have somewhere to go because she was too ashamed to ask for help. Ethan listened quietly, his heart tightening with every word. When she finished, she wiped her eyes and laughed weakly. "I'm sorry, you didn't ask for all that." Ethan shook his head. "Don't apologize. Everyone needs someone to listen." The rain outside began to ease, and for the first time in a long while, Lila felt a strange sense of peace. Maybe it was the warmth of the cafe, or the way Ethan looked at her, not with pity but with genuine kindness. He didn't see her as broken. He saw her as someone worth caring about. That night, Ethan made her a promise. He told her she didn't have to face the cold again. The cafe's small storage room in the back, where they kept old supplies, was empty, and while it wasn't much, he offered her the couch there to sleep on for the night. Lila refused at first, embarrassed, but his sincerity broke through her hesitation. She agreed, tears of gratitude slipping down her cheeks. In that tiny room, surrounded by the smell of coffee beans and cardboard boxes, Lila fell asleep for the first time in a week without fear. Over the next few days, Ethan quietly spoke to the cafe owner, an older man with a soft heart and a sharp sense of justice. When he told him about Lila's situation, the owner didn't hesitate. "If she wants to work here," he said, "we'll find a place for her." When Ethan told Lila the next morning, she froze, unable to believe it. Her eyes filled again, not with sadness this time, but with something new, hope. Weeks passed, and Lila slowly transformed. Her hair regained its shine, her face its light. She started smiling again. Customers began to notice her kindness and warmth. She remembered their names, their usual orders, and often slipped in an extra cookie for the kids who came by. The cafe seemed brighter when she was there. Ethan and Lila became close friends, sharing quiet mornings before opening, laughing over spilled milk and burnt toast. What started as an act of compassion became something deeper, an unspoken bond between two souls who found each other when life felt heaviest. But what touched everyone most wasn't her transformation, it was how she began to help others. One evening, a man came in, shivering, clearly struggling. Lila noticed his torn jacket and offered him a warm cup of soup before he could ask. "You look like you've had a long day," she said softly. "Sit, warm up." It was the same kindness that had once saved her, and now she was passing it on. The cafe slowly became a place known not just for its coffee, but for the compassion that brewed there. Regulars started donating old coats. Meals were given quietly to those who couldn't pay, and people who walked in heavy-hearted often left feeling a little lighter. It all started because one man had seen through the silence of one woman and chosen to care. Months later, on a quiet evening, the cafe was closing again. The rain tapped gently against the windows, the same kind of rain from that first night. Lila looked out at the street, remembering who she had been. Ethan came up behind her, setting 2 cups of coffee on the table. "Looks like rain's back," he said with a smile. She turned toward him, eyes warm with gratitude. "Yeah," she whispered, "but this time, I'm not afraid of it." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because kindness like this deserves to be remembered and repeated.